Can you tell me about the right wing in Peru and like what's their response? You know, I know that like 80% of the media, for example, is owned by the right, and I think in the United States, because we have, I mean, it is the same, you know, like NBC and CBS and other folks, it's still owned by oligarchs, but it's so much more stark in Latin America when it comes to the media, and that's why every time you read something about Pedro Castillo, it's either like he's a Marxist-Leninist, crazy, corrupt guy, or he's the best thing since sliced bread. He's going to be, and it's like, how do we find, you know, the middle road? So yeah, what's the right saying about him?
Yeah, actually, it's unfortunate that the media, the formal media, I mean, that all the conglomerate of the broadcasting and some newspapers, they played along with the right wing, and we are not talking about the center right wing or a very smart right wing. We are talking about a very, very rough right wing that makes the right wing of maybe in the US or maybe in other countries to look like a decent center or even left wing party. I mean, these are the right wing.
Have you been following American politics, Jose?
Yes,
sure
absolutely,
okay.
Absolutely. I can tell you that. Yeah, actually, it makes the right wing in Peru makes Trump look like the president of National Academy and QAnon like a decent movement. I mean, it's amazing.
Oh God.
It's very, very bad. I mean, the right wing has since the moment that Pedro Castillo won the first round and entered to the ballotage, the right wing in Peru started to spread fake news, not only to discredit Pedro Castillo, but also to discredit any person who decided not to align with the right wing and who was supporting even center kind of program, right? So what they reacted in a very, very bad way, which was totally negative for the country, because they sought to postpone the official proclamation of Castillo. So, and that's why he didn't have much time in order between the official proclamation and when he had to take the oath as president, there was like a less than 1 week. So he didn't have enough time, like to form government or to catch up or to make that a proper transition from his own term. So another thing that they did, and actually they copied. They were copying the Trump's playbook in terms of they were claiming that there was electoral fraud, and they never showed any proof of this. Never. Sure. No, they were saying that they were some kind of counterfeited electoral ballots. They were saying that there were a collusion between the official authorities, and they never could prove that. They even went to Washington to try to convince members of the American organizations of Latin America that they had to intervene in Peru because there was electoral fraud, and no one listened to them. So it was they made a ridiculous. They were very ridiculous, but unfortunately, this undermined the democratic system in the long run.
Yeah, I'm thankful that Trump wasn't in office to receive that call from like, "Ooh, please coup us,
absolutely, yes.
Please coup Peru," and Biden's like, "No."
Trump would have been like, "Yeah." No, like saying like Trump, yeah. So.
Brett, do you want to jump in? I think we lost Brett for just 1 second. But I wanted to ask you about you say the right has been really reticent, has like tried smear campaigns. How much is true of some of the things they're saying? For example, not for example, but one of the things I was hearing, and from a critique from the left, is that maybe Pedro Castillo is very religious and sort of conservative socially, maybe against things like choice or gay rights. And maybe I'm not familiar enough with the kinds of civil rights in Peru currently, but how does his politics line up with that?
Yeah, no, actually, there has been a very important grassroots movement in favor of civil rights in Peru, for example, in terms of sexual rights and for LGBTI rights over the past years. But Pedro Castillo is not exactly, he doesn't belong to this kind of, to the left wing who supports these rights in a very open way. He's Catholic. He belongs to a very religious family. And in order to gain votes from another left-wing conservative movement, even though it looks like a very opposite kind of way to say this, but there is a very conservative left-wing movement here. But also he has demonstrated that he can negotiate, that he can be open to change. And during the ballotage, during the electoral campaign, he was able to promise some changes in terms of this, to favor these LGBT movements in terms of women's rights, for example. He has tried to fulfill some of these promises, but it's not enough. For example, there are only 2 women in the cabinet right now, which is very low number of women, because it's a setback from some in terms of a gender balance that we have been gaining over the past years. So, but I think that this is something that he needs to, and the people is pressing him, not only in terms of public opinion, but also within his own party. They are trying to push this, to put it in a more public way. So, but I think this is one of the things that that we need to keep pushing him in order to promote more gender rights.
And in terms of like is he a communist? Isn't he a communist, Marxist, Leninist? Is he embracing that? You know how Bernie Sanders in the United States very much embraced his like democratic socialism, which was one of the things I very much admired about him. Is Castillo just trying to sort of pull back on that? Or is he, I'm sure he can't be a full-blown communist. Like
No, I mean, he has been very smart and very cautious about defining himself in a specific political kind of line. I mean, he claims that he's from the left wing, okay, which is in a very broad sense, which is right. But the problem is that his party, which he's not affiliated to the party, it's like a party who invited him to run for president. His party is a communist party. It's a Marxist-Leninist communist party, and the founder of that party, Mr. Vladimir Cerrón, he's a neurosurgeon trained in Cuba.
Wow.
So but Castillo, no, he's a more kind of flexible kind of. I mean, he has been union leader, so he knows that he cannot be kind of very confrontational. He cannot kind of antagonize, no. But what is interesting is that in Peru, it's very hard to have a communist party or even a left-wing party, because the right wing has appropriated of the idea to call terrorists to those who belong to the left wing, because we had this very bloody subversive movement in the 80s and part of the 90s, the Shining Path. So part of the legacy of that, even though the Shining Path was defeated in 1992, part of the legacy is that the right wing has used the term terrorist, or the Peruvian term terruco, to call to those who are in the center, or even to those who defend, for example, gender rights, those who don't align with religious conservative viewpoint, right? Or those who trying to proclaim or to defend social rights. So that's why it's very difficult to have a very socialist open agenda here in the country.
Brett, you're back. Did you want to jump in at all?
Well, I fear that I've missed something, but just what is the likelihood, and if you've already answered this, I understand, and apologies for my audio difficulties, but what is you had they had one president a year for the last 5 years. What's the likelihood that this one's gonna make it, especially given the opposition on the way in, and I don't imagine it's going to disappear now that his cabinet's gotten the okay. Good job. You win. We lose. What's the likelihood that this president will be able to stick around?
Well, I mean, it's gonna be hard, even though Castillo won. I mean, he, as Francesca was saying, he won with a very thin, right, margin. So I think that he has to be very careful, because he has to manage in both sides, from his own party, from the radical wing of his own party, right, and also to defend from the right wing. So I mean, he's not in a position that I really envy. I mean, I mean, I think that nobody wants to be in his own shoes, but something that he has also shown that he can be very flexible in terms to, for example, to remove those members of the cabinet who are very who have been exposed to high criticism or who they don't fit for the job, right? So, but I mean, it's going to be very, very hard 5 years, and the right wing. They want to defeat him, because if he is going to finish his term, that's going to prove that the right wing maybe is not going to be back to the executive power for a very long time, right? So I mean, so that's what happened, for example, in these past days. I mean, he got vote of confidence from the Congress, with a Congress also dominated by the right wing, but he also had to negotiate with several groups in the public opinion. So, I mean, it's totally different.
Yeah, and I was just reading that, that Peru Libre does not have many seats in Congress, so that's sort of like he's not in a strong position right now, so he is negotiating, which is good, right? I mean, ostensibly, all around. Of course, once they find a new Fujimori to run, look out. Fujimori, who's not in jail, just you wait, Peru. It'll happen again. Yeah, and I guess, is there anything else you wanted to add in terms of how people outside of Peru should be looking at Peru? Given that every time it's like, oh, a socialist president is elected, at least folks like myself on the left, we all get like, woo, yay, cool. Yeah. Like, any thoughts on how we should or should not feel about what's going on in Peru?
Yeah, no, I think that this is a very good opportunity, not only for the left wing to show that the country needed to a president and a government to focus more on the majority, because Pedro Castillo won with the votes not only from the urban areas and from the capital city, but also from a very, very vast majority of those who were silenced over the past years. For example, indigenous communities, people from the Amazon, and even the urban poor. So I think it's very significant that he won the election, but also it's very important for all of us, not only in the country, but also in Latin America or even the Americas, that how we need to rethink the economic model, right? We are not saying that we need to abandon capitalism or to return to a pre-Columbian economy, like some right-wing commentators they are saying that what's going to happen with Pedro Castillo. But we need to more in terms of the social economy, to focus more on people, right? I mean, the pandemic in Peru hit very, very bad. I mean, Peru has been one of the maybe countries that was more affected in terms of the death toll, and but also the pandemic also revealed the limits of this economic model, right? Many people, they didn't have coverage in terms of public health, or even right now they cannot access to remote education because they don't have equipment. And also it showed that we need to focus more in terms of that, to get a more robust state and to try to find a balance between the economy and the state in order to provide more public services. So I think it's, that if you ask me, I think that we should see Peru in terms of, to be very optimistic on how we are trying to fight back the pandemic. The vaccination is moving very, very fast.
It is. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's good. Even despite the right wing started a campaign to promote ivermectin and to sabotage the vaccination campaign, and saying that you should not get a Chinese vaccine because the Chinese vaccine is very bad. You should wait, for another vaccine, any other vaccine, but not the Chinese vaccine. So
aren't there Chinese mines? Aren't there Chinese operated and owned mines in Peru?
Yes,
oh, please, you can, no, you can extract all kinds of jewels and take all the money away, but we trust them to do that. But no, we don't trust them on any kind of vaccine. It's just such ridiculous xenophobia.
Totally, absolutely. And xenophobia is unfortunately very strong in the country, even though the Chinese community is one of the oldest Chinese community in the Americas. I mean, only after California. I mean, because of the gold rush, after California, Lima, and the urban coastal area is one of the largest and the oldest Chinese communities here. So it's kind of crazy how you can trust on Chinese with, I mean, in terms of the, okay, give us your money or give us your donation or whatever, but we don't trust your vaccines, right? It's kind of this insanity that the right wing is provoking here.
I have one final question, which is if Peru taxed people who use Machu Picchu as their dating profile, do you think it could make a decent sum of money to help social programs there?
Just like looking off into the distance. I took a tram up this.
Okay.
No, I'm obviously, that is a joke. Glad you laughed.
Oh yeah, no, I know, absolutely.
Thank you. I mean, I am heartened though that like a lot of the companies are like Chinese and Canadian, because they're like, Canadians don't really coup people that much. So I'm like how would they even? What would they do? They just slowly siphon off mineral wealth. But
not too much trouble, eh? Could we like have a different like if you're not busy later, can you change governments for us? Thanks.
Hey, could you leave, eh? What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do